Social Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu is leading a human rights walk against gender-based violence and femicide. It aims to raise awareness about GBV as a gross violation of human rights. My colleague Manqoba Mchunu is following the story. Let's talk to him now. Manqoba, if ever there was a human rights issue that needed all our attention, it's definitely GBV. How are things looking ahead of that walk?
Indeed, Nandi, we are expecting that march to start here around about 9 o'clock this morning. Of course, it will be led by the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, with the provincial counterparts here from the Gauteng province. And it is quite a significant march, given the fact that we are now just 2 days from celebrating Human Rights Day, which is a very important day here in South Africa, where we get to reflect on our rights as well as democracy and the responsibilities that come with those rights. Of course, the issue of femicide, the issue of gender-based violence remains quite a worrying issue here in South Africa, given the fact that there has been quite a spike in the number of cases of gender-based violence, more especially during the lockdown. We did hear those statistics from the Minister of Police just a few weeks ago, painting really a worrying picture, the fact that gender-based violence has increased by 5% just between the period of October and December. That's last year, Nandi. So it is quite a contentious issue here in the country. And of course, we do expect to hear some of those messages denouncing the scourge of gender-based violence. But I just want to bring in Veli Shongwe, who is from the Men's Forum. Of course, they also will be part of this march that's taking place here today. Veli, thank you for your time. Let's start here. The significance of it all, how important is it that we denounce the scourge of gender-based violence? How important is this march is taking place here today?
Good morning, Manqoba. Good morning, viewers at home. We as Men's Movement in Gauteng, we 100% support the initiative by the National Department of Social Development in partnership with the Gauteng Social Development. We as a Men's Movement, we are denouncing and condemning any form of gender-based violence and femicide, including any form of violence. That is why we're here today. We got some initiatives that specifically focuses upon the prevention of gender-based violence and femicide. So that is why we're here today.
Let's speak about the issue of men. Of course, it is quite important that men join in this conversation of gender-based violence. What would your message be to men out there in terms of gender-based violence and the calls for an end to gender-based violence? How involved should men be?
Thank you. That's a very good question. In fact, we as men's movement, we are encouraging men on different platforms to ensure that not only they prevent, but they also partake in the initiatives that are ensuring prevention of gender-based violence, including training young men to be good men. Because if ever you don't train young men at an early stage, unfortunately, we might be grooming other perpetrators. But the initiatives are different. There's also the initiative that we've also introduced called wall murals. We are painting wall murals across the province to ensure that people getting messages on daily basis in their faces that the gender-based violence is unacceptable. We're also engaging with different NGOs to ensure that they train young boys in terms of gender-based violence. We're also engaging with different men's forums in and across Gauteng to start the petition called 1 Million Men Petition, where all men that are involved in this particular fight, they will be signing the petition and contributing their different skills to ensure that we prevent gender-based violence in Manqoba.
Okay, let's talk about your message here today. What is your message that you want to send out?
I'm saying all the transformed men out there, please come out, let us fight gender-based violence. That's one. The second message is we as men of Gauteng, we truly condemn gender-based violence, and we really apologize to all the women and families that have been victims of gender-based violence and femicide. Let us come out, Matota, and fight against gender-based violence. We can win this battle and try and train those that are perpetrating this to change from being perpetrators, but to testify and make sure that they engage people and train people not to engage in any form of violence, including gender-based violence and femicide.
And what is your sense as Men's Forum? Do you think that we as a country are winning this war against gender-based violence?
That is one of the very, very difficult questions to answer at this point in time, because we're still mobilizing men to come and ensure that we engage in fighting this particular pandemic, which is covering the better part of the country. But at the moment, we're still putting measures in place, which in the last few years, we are busy engaging on dialogues. But up to this far now, we're not only engaging on dialogues. Yes, they are important, but now we're taking action by going to different communities, even on the days when the perpetrators are appearing on court. We're mobilizing men to go to that particular court and to demonstrate, to show the perpetrators that we are condemning this kind of violence. So we are trying our level best, but at the moment, everything is still at the initial stage. Ultimately, we're going to win the fight against gender-based violence.
And do you think that government is perhaps doing enough, the police, are they doing enough to try and curb incidents of gender-based violence?
This particular pandemic, Manqoba, it's not only the responsibility of the government. The government can avail the resources, but communities are the ones who are supposed to try and alert each and every government offices to ensure that there is violence, there is somebody who's a possible perpetrator, so that we can intervene. But if the communities are not interacting with the government, unfortunately the government might not be aware. There'll always be a reaction rather than a proaction. But once the communities are coming out and say, here we as the communities of this particular area, we're saying no to violence, and let the government come and assist, definitely then we're going to be a positive result out of that particular engagement.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was Veli Shongwe from the Men's Forum, saying that men should also take a stand against gender-based violence. So we're expecting that march to take place here this morning to the Constitutional Hill, and it will culminate into a dialogue at one of the hotspots for gender-based violence, one of the 30 hotspots that is Nandi, that was identified by the police minister, which is Deep Sloot. And we do understand that there will be a dialogue to look further into the issue of gender-based violence, as well as the issue of human rights.
All right, and of course we will be keeping up with you throughout the remainder of the day. That was my colleague Manqoba Mchunu out in Johannesburg.